when it comes to men and body dysmorphic disorder, I've heard a term bigorexia.
Yes, yes.
And from what you've described about body dysmorphia, the wording of body dysmorphia and body dysmorphic disorder, bigorexia, which for people that, and I'm sure you'll be able to talk to this much better, but from my understanding is it's this feeling that you're never big enough in men. So men putting on size and muscle because they don't feel like they're ever big enough. Talk to me about bigorexia, where it sits in the body dysmorphic disorder world.
Yeah. Bigorexia is also called muscle dysmorphia, and it's just what you said. It's usually boys and men who think inaccurately, think that they're just not big and muscular enough. They're too scrawny. I think sometimes it's tied up with a sense of not being masculine enough for some. And, in reality, this is body dysmorphic disorder because it's an inaccurate perception. And in reality, boys and men with this form of body dysmorphic disorder, again called muscle dysmorphia or bigorexia, um, they look normal, and some look hugely muscular. Now, you cannot, and everyone has probably seen these kind of extreme images. You can't attain that look just by working out, right? And eating a high protein diet. Um, you can attain that hugely muscular look only by using uh, anabolic steroids, injectable drugs that are usually obtained illegally, and that create huge amounts of muscle. It's a fake look, and I think a lot of people realize that, and it's potentially quite dangerous, actually. About 40% of boys and men with muscle dysmorphia use this class of drugs, anabolic steroids. It's different from steroids you might take for asthma or something like that. They're muscle building drugs, and they're bad for your physical health. They lead to early heart disease for a lot of people, heart attacks at young ages. Um, People have probably heard of something called roid rage. They can
Mhm.
cause
Yeah.
aggressive behavior. Um, People can get very depressed when they come off of them. They can be people can get addicted to them, can abuse them and become physically dependent on them. And I think this is another form of BDD where social media, I worry, is really fueling this form of BDD. And because you can find all kinds of stuff online, where people are encouraged to take potentially dangerous drugs, not just anabolic steroids, but a whole bunch of them that can really be toxic to your body and your brain. Um, and I'm glad you mentioned this also because it reminds us that BDD affects men, boys and men, as well as women. Among adults, BDD, about 40% of people with BDD are male. So that's another important thing to keep in mind.
Well, I think definitely a lot of men, hair would be a consideration. Maybe
Yes.
skin, not
Yes.
as much, but for
Yeah,
me,
no, it's the same.
oh,
Yeah.
is it? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. That's only anecdotally I'm thinking there.
Yeah.
But definitely hair. I mean, I chose to shave my head when I was 12 or 13 years old. I just did it as a bet, and it stayed like this, and I have big curly hair, and yeah, I have always stayed like this. But there are people that definitely make comments about someone who, like myself, who has a bald head, and you can tell that it's not coming from a place of security when they're saying that. So that's always an interesting experience. But when it comes to the body, I found it interesting because I've actually, over the last year, put on muscle myself. I've actually grown. I've put on 10 kilos, maybe actually more now, but I've done it through a functional reason that I wanted to feel stronger. I wanted to work. But having been a professional athlete, I have always stayed away from exogenous substances. So never been able to take steroids because you'll just get banned. But I don't want to take them, and I would like to just be able to get to the stage where I feel strong and healthy and at a size where I feel capable, because I have to admit that there is an element of when you build size as a man and you feel stronger, there is this feeling of capability that you feel, and you feel more like a man. It just is. I can't describe it any other way, really. And there is that line that has to be drawn, and when it becomes, I have to be bigger, I have to get more, I have to be more. And for me, then it sort of starts to borderline on this narcissistic form. Like, I need to be better than other. I need to look better and be better because kind of the biggest gorilla in the tribe is going to get everything. So yeah, I have felt that probably more in the last year of anything, but it's never drawn me into wanting to use some form of extragenous substance to go even further.
Very smart, very, very smart. I've seen very, very awful medical things happen to people, and, some men who've lifted so much, they've spent hours and hours and hours a day lifting everything they could possibly find, and now they're in a wheelchair because they
Mm.
damaged themselves so much. So, yeah, I mean, some working out, of course, is good for us and healthy, but as you said, you gotta draw that line so that you don't wanna cross over into excessive working out and certainly not using those drugs, which, are really bad for you.
If you enjoyed that clip with Catherine and you want to watch the full episode, all you have to do is click around about here.